So like and subscribe if you want to. The Rockets have signed DeMarcus Cousins. I'm actually doing this commentary a little bit before it becomes official. I'm assuming it's going to be not a lot of money for not too many seasons. And there's, of course, the big question with Houston of, are Harden and Westbrook going to be on the team throughout the whole regular season? Are they both really going to want to be there? Are they going to play just as hard as if it was last season? All of that is fair questions to ask. But at the moment, they're on the team, so we'll just assume that Boogie is going to be playing with them. And I would imagine Christian Wood is the starting center. I mean, Boogie, of course, is a bigger name, but if we're just talking about recent performances, I think Christian Wood should start over DeMarcus. I don't really think we're going to see them starting together. But anyway, to think about what DeMarcus can do, I think the three-point shooting should be pretty real for Houston. I mean, we're going to have to see what Steven Silas wants to do with their offense. I would imagine it's not going to be just James Harden do everything and no big guy, everybody space the floor. But I do think it's still going to be a decent amount of that. And I feel like Boogie can certainly stretch out to three. His three-point shooting was getting better. And you'd imagine, given the lower body injuries that DeMarcus has had, he's going to perhaps have to lean on that stuff a little bit more. I mean, 35% on 6 a game in his 1 year with the Pelicans. Not as good from 3 with the Warriors, but he wasn't exactly in shape for a lot of that. So it will be cool just to see a guy who can grab rebounds but also shoot threes for Houston, even if I don't think DeMarcus is going to be starting over Christian Wood. Now, as far as other things on offense, we can think about post-ups, going off the dribble, grabbing a rebound and bringing it up in transition, all the things that made DeMarcus really DeMarcus. I don't know how much of that we're going to see with Houston. I mean, we could see some of it, but I imagine between the amount of rebounds that Westbrook is going to grab and Harden will grab, on top of just Boogie just being affected by these lower body injuries at this point, I just don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of that. I would imagine DeMarcus still has some post-up skills, so he can maybe beat switches if he's setting a screen for Russ or Harden in the half court, that sort of thing. Or if there's a mismatch after a transition or whatever. So we could probably still see some Boogie posting up. As far as how they're going to utilize DeMarcus's passing, I mean, if they're going to have him at the top of the key and then they're going to have some sort of off-ball movement, that would be great. It's just, with Harden and Westbrook, you have two guys who have not done a whole lot of moving off the ball in their careers. I mean, we saw that once the Lakers forced the ball out of Harden's hands, he was just kind of standing there a lot of the time, not really cutting to the basket, setting off-ball screens, that sort of thing. And I think that's where Steven Silas comes into play. He, of course, was the coach in Dallas, and they had a little bit, well, not the coach, he was the assistant coach or whatever, and they had a little bit more movement than Houston did this previous season. So maybe some of that could be incorporated, and if they actually get Harden and Westbrook cutting a little bit, then we could see Boogie's passing used a bit more. DeMarcus has been one of the better big man passers when he's been healthy, whether that's from the top of the key or on the low post, and then guys can play off of that. So I think offensively, Boogie could give them a bit. Could DeMarcus still be at least a good enough ball handler to where, let's say he's setting a screen for Harden and then they trap Harden or whatever, could DeMarcus take 2 dribbles to the basket and either finish that himself or pass it off to somebody in the corner or whatever? I would hope so. He's probably going to be a step slower on those things than we've seen him in the past, but perhaps he can make that work. As far as how much Boogie is going to want to actually roll to the rim, I don't know, because, I mean, if we're honest, DeMarcus kind of started preferring popping to 3 instead of rolling to the basket a few years ago, so we'll just have to see. I think it's going to be a balance with all of it, but there is a world in which Boogie can be a valuable offensive player for this Houston team, perhaps grab a couple rebounds. I would hope he can still draw at least a few fouls a game just from sort of existing around the basket and all that. Now, I mentioned defense before, and I said the word rim protector, and I mean, I think Boogie can at least stand in front of the rim and make a difference, but in terms of defending pick and rolls, defending in space and all that, I think it's fair to think that he could have some problems for this team. I mean, Boogie was already trending in the wrong direction on defense before he started having all these injuries, and now you would expect that it could look kind of rough at times. I think teams are going to be able to attack him, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to hide him defensively. I mean, I'm sure Steven Silas could think of a few things, but there's going to be times when teams are just going at him play after play, and we're just going to have to see if DeMarcus can hold up. And when you put that out there with Harden and Westbrook, who, I mean, we'd have to see with them on defense. I mean, Harden has improved, but he's been up and down his career. Westbrook, I think when Westbrook is locked in, he's an okay to good on-ball defender. He's not that good of a team defender, if we're being honest. They don't have Covington anymore. He was a good team defender for them. PJ Tucker will, of course, help, but I mean, PJ is only one guy, and also he's like, 34, 35 or whatever at this point. I mean, I would hope that we're still not asking PJ Tucker to fix all of the problems with the Houston Rockets, because that's what it was this previous season. So I would imagine the starting five for Houston is probably Westbrook, Harden, PJ Tucker, another wing player, I don't know who at the moment, to be honest, and Christian Wood with Boogie coming off the bench. If they want to get wild, they can go with Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, both of them can shoot, so in that sense, it could be cool. We'll have to see. I guess if I was going to think about the other wing player, I mean, Daniel House is still on the roster. We'll have to see if the players even want to play with him. I forgot about Eric Gordon, so maybe he's the starter. Houston, they should still be able to take a whole bunch of threes, and I mean, if Harden is totally bought in, if Harden and Westbrook are all the way in on trying to make it work with this team, then I think they can still be very good. I don't think they're title contenders, but they can win 50-something games and be a great offense, and we'll see if they can figure it out on defense. And that goes for DeMarcus as well. He could be a stretch big who's at least going to give him rebounding, so they're plugging one hole that they had last year, which was, of course, playing 6'5" guys at center and all that. And then, again, we're just going to have to see how much of DeMarcus's passing is really allowed to be a thing here. I mean, if it's just going to be the Harden and Westbrook show and everybody plays off of that, then I don't know if Boogie's going to be getting a whole lot of assists. So we'll see with that. I think another question could be, will the Rockets run any no-center lineups? I mean, in that situation, it might force PJ Tucker to play the 5 again, and it's understandable if he never wants to do that, but maybe they'd bust it out for a few minutes here and there. I'm just thinking, like, are DeMarcus and Christian Wood really going to play 24 minutes apiece at the center position? We'll have to see. I don't have a strong take on what they want to do there. But yeah, I think, again, what it comes down to is if everybody is really bought in and wants to have this team be as good as possible, then they can be very good. And I think DeMarcus can certainly help with that stuff.